Joe, in a few words, could you tell us what to you makes St. Lawrence special?
Actually, what makes St. Lawrence special, and it's a special parish, is all the lovely priests and all the parishioners we've had over the years, especially the first ones, the Irish, and then after that it was a mixture of the rest of the nationalities.
Can you give us a special memory that you have of St. Lawrence?
Oh, a special memory, I guess, would be when I got married and I was baptized here, I made my first communion here, I was married here, I had my confirmation here. They're all good memories of St. Lawrence. Okay, how I met my wife was back in 1946. I was on my way to school, and back in those days we had to walk past the priest house to get to school at Ferry and John. And there was a young girl, and she was standing out in front of the priest house, and she was crying. And my sister used to walk to school with a girl by the name of Noreen Mooney. And there was a lady at the corner, and she's yelling at them to take this young girl to school, but because she was crying. She didn't want to go to school, and that's the reason why she was crying. And I found out later on, I thought at that time, what a sucky food kid this is. And I found out later on who she was, and we ended up getting married and back in 1970.
Frank, I wonder if you could say a few words about what makes St. Lawrence special to you.
Well, what makes St. Lawrence special to me is, first of all, the people that go there. I had a lot of good friends down here, and we all knew each other. And them days, you didn't lock your house or your car or anything, and it was very special for me. The priests, of course, were very special. Father Flavin, Father Crimmin, knowing some of them. And, of course, the teachers. And Sister Marie Cordes is my favorite. And we had Miss Worm, Miss O'Keefe, and Sister Cyprian. And Sister Cyprian used to run the choir for us. We had the, what do you call it, the altos, and I forget what the other ones were, but anyway, their sister would be, you go on the piano, and Miss Worm would be on our side, directing us, and it was really, I never believed in that before, but now I do. And it's really special for me. It takes back good memories. And of course, the guys I knew, the kids I went to school with, and we're all good friends. Still are, some of us. Still know each other. But you never change this place, St. Lawrence. It's been the greatest. Well, the memories I have mostly is when we played sports. We played ball and all that, and but the teachers I never knew were so good until you get older. You miss them. When you look at the things like we had, right through, I said, you can't beat them. They're very good, our teachers. I didn't know it then, of course, I was only a kid, and how important they were, but I do now.
Well, it was my whole life. Like, I spent 19 years here. Oh, I'm sorry, I should be looking at the camera, but yeah, I spent 19 years in St. Lawrence. We came here during the beginning of the war in 1941. I started at Bonetta School, and after 3 days they found out I was Catholic, so they said, you got to go to St. Lawrence's. So I went to St. Lawrence's. The names that Frank mentioned and some of these other people, like Sister Mary Cordes, Sister Cyprian, was tough as nails, but she was fair. In fact, we thought so much of her after she passed. We all went to the where she was laid out and paid our last respects to Sister Cyprian. And I was in the things that really amazed me about St. Lawrence is my first impression was we had the greatest choirs that you ever seen and you heard in your life. We had a great children's choir. And the church was packed every Sunday with Protestants that came to church to listen to the children sing. Because I used to sell fruit door to door for John Evanshaw. And a lot of our customers were Protestant. And they told me how they loved coming to St. Lawrence's to listen to the children sing. And then Mrs. Robinson ran the two choirs, one for the adults for the 11 o'clock Mass, and she ran the choir where they sang 7 o'clock chancel, I think it was choir. The boys, these young boys coming every year with beautiful voices. They turned around 13. She had to get rid of them because the voices, they started like yodeling, when kids' voices changed. So then you have another bunch of boys come up, beautiful voices. So that was my great impression of it. About St. Lawrence's was just, I got so many great memories. I know all the people that I remember, like you mentioned the Hanlon, somebody mentioned the Hanlon brothers. My God, I still remember, I still pray for a lot. One older lady used to come to 7 o'clock Mass, and I was trying to make my Lent coming to Mass every day one year for Lent. And sometimes you sit through 2 or 3 Masses, because the priests would say the Masses on the side altar, and that'd be the main altar. So we'd come early to listen to one Mass, we'd say to the main Mass, another Mass. And one old lady come up to me, she says, "Would you say a prayer for me? And I'll pray for you." I don't know her name, but she came every day for Mass. So I prayed for this old lady. And every day I say the rosary, I still pray for this old lady. I call her, I don't know her name, but I mention people's names when I pray for them, and I just say my saint. So I got a lot of great memories of St. Lawrence's. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know which ones to tell you.
St. Lawrence means family to me. A great many of the people who actually came to this area back in the 1850s were part of my family. They lived here, worked here, and built this church in 1890. My dad, my mother, they were all North Enders. I can name the families that were part of my group of families together, related. The Reardons, the Murphys, the O'Neills. Somehow or other, they're all Irish, and they all got together, and they had kids. Some went to jail, some became priests, and they filled this North End up at that time. It was the family atmosphere that I could go into anybody's home here in the North End, no matter who or what they were, whether Italian, Greek, doesn't matter, you were accepted. And I can remember the days here in St. Lawrence's when you couldn't get a seat in that church. It was so full. And I would say 20% were Protestants who always came here on a Christmas Eve to go to Mass. Strange but true. We had a lot of fun. When we were teenagers, we were in the church basement all the time. We belonged there. And so that's where we were. I don't know if anybody remember the wonderful idea that brought up at that time in the 30s. The church hall was warm, hot. So somebody got the bright idea, and maybe you all remember this, of putting a propeller down there. So we got a propeller of an airplane propeller and set it up against the wall and turned it on. All hell broke loose. But it was something we tried. I don't think they were too happy with us, but it worked. Things like that are memories, and I think without memories you don't have a life, or never lived a life if you don't have memories. Like you mentioned CYO, it started here. We started it here years ago, back in the 30s, downstairs. And from there we went up to St. Patrick's and spoke to them up there, and they got started on there. And that's where the Catholic Youth Organization started, right downstairs here in Hamilton, St. Lawrence's Church. St. Lawrence's Church, I remember serving my first Mass here as a young kid. And that day, my mother was there, and I forget the other boy was serving this with me that day. But that's were the days that and when I loved the church and Mass. I'm not too fussy about the Mass today. I'll be honest with you, but I go every Sunday here, but I'm not too, I like the old Mass. But this day, if you all remember, with the bells, you ring them. And so I'm on the right-hand side, and Father Hinchy was the priest. And I don't know, I got caught up with the bells. And every time he'd say a word, I'd ring the bell, and I'd ring the bell, and I'd ring the bell, and all of a sudden he stomped up there, and he went over to the middle and made a turn around, come down, bowed again, kneeled beside me, and slowly took the bells out of my hand. And then went back up, and we completed the Mass. Memories like that. The priests were wonderful. It was a great church, a great people. And we often reminisce about the priests and the church. But there are no priests, there are no churches unless you have the people.
That's
They
perfect.
come first. And anytime you put themselves first, you're wrong, because the people come first. Without the people, there is no church.